A lot of people try the carnivore diet and they don't get the results they were looking for. They feel tired, their weight loss stalls, they get cravings for their old junk food, and eventually they quit just thinking, this doesn't work for me. But here's the truth. When carnivore doesn't work for you, it's almost always not because of the diet itself. It's usually because of a few common mistakes you make along the way. And the tricky part is most of these mistakes are common sense mistakes. And the tricky part is most of these mistakes make sense. They're not dumb mistakes. They're from habits we were taught for decades. They come from old diet rules and old nutritional advice. And from you trying to apply low-fat, low-salt diet advice to a meat-based diet. And all the mistakes I'm going to cover, I made them all myself. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through the 13 of the biggest mistakes I've made and that I've seen other people make when they're trying to start the carnivore diet. Why people make these mistakes and how they're sabotaging their fat loss, their energy, and consistency. If you've been on the carnivore diet or trying the carnivore diet and it hasn't worked for you yet, check and see if you're making any of these mistakes. That might be the reason why you're having problems. All right, so let's get started with what I think is probably the most common mistake I made and I see everybody else make on carnivore diet. That is trying to eat too lean, picking lean proteins instead of the fattier protein. And this is common in our way of eating because for decades, nutritional advice and all of our doctors were basing their advice on the nutritional studies at the time. And a lot of those studies, and I think many of them were flawed studies, were showing that saturated fat was dangerous, and it was saturated fat that was causing the heart attacks. And if we quit eating saturated fat, then our health would be better. And the other big reason that I firmly believe is that the food industry, the guys that are processed food and sugar especially, were shifting onto low fat to shift what's the problems that sugar causes away from sugar and kind of making low fat take the blame. So I think the sugar industry, big food and the processed food were all on board with the low fat, trying to make the fat the bad guy and not the sugar. And I think about all the diet programs we'd had over the years. All these diet programs focused on calories, 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 and the higher fat meats have higher calories. So these diets pushed you to eat chicken, white meat chicken, eat pork, eat the lower calorie lean meat. And too often people took lean to mean healthy. And these diets, a lot of them had appetite suppression. They still sell pills and shots for appetite suppression. And when you talk about appetite suppression, it makes undereating feel right because it makes you feel like you're not, if you're not eating enough, you're undereating, you're saving calories, you're going to lose weight. Mistake number 2 is not making ruminant meats a priority. The ruminant meats are the meats like beef, lamb, goat, bison. That's the meat that's best for you. Too many of us assume that all meat has the same nutritional value. It's simply not true. Beef has many more vitamins and nutrients than chicken does. And that's one of the reasons why on carnivore, we really focus on eating beef, especially the first 30 days and not focusing so much on chicken. And later, after the first 30 days, you're more than free to add back in chicken and pork and fish. I eat that way myself. I eat chicken, I eat pork, I eat fish, I eat the other meats. But you put them through on a rotation. So you're not eating them every day. You're not eating them every day. It's not your sole focus. You're keeping beef in your diet every single day. You're going to eat beef. And then the other meal, you can rotate through fish, pork, chicken to get a variety of different foods and to help out your bank statement and when you go to shopping at the grocery store. And speaking of grocery stores, that's the other reason why a lot of us want to shy away from beef is when you go shopping for the first time and you look at the price of steak versus the price of chicken or pork, the cost difference is a lot. The one thing I will say is if you're just absolutely cannot afford to buy beef, buy pork, buy chicken, just make sure you have plenty of extra fat adding to it. Buy lard, buy tallow, buy butter, and use extra butter, extra tallow, extra lard on the chicken and pork to get the fat content up. And make sure you take a good multivitamin to pick up the nutrients that you're missing from the beef. Besides just the cost of it, you got to think, for the past 3, 4, 5, 6 decades, chicken and pork have been marketed as the healthy options, and beef is demonized because it's full of saturated fat. Because of the way we were taught and propagandized to for so long, we underestimate the nutrients and the vitamins that we get from beef. We don't realize how much beef keeps us full for longer, so we actually end up eating less in the long run. Mistake number 3 is not getting enough salt in our diets. And here's what happens when we switch over to a low carb diet. and stop eating processed carbs and all carbs altogether, the insulin levels in our bodies drop. When the insulin levels in our bodies drop, what that also causes is it tells our kidneys that we don't need to hold on to sodium anymore. So when insulin goes down, our kidneys stop holding on to sodium. Sodium gets flushed from our bodies, and we end up with low sodium. And with low sodium comes a whole risk of side effects you can have: the dizziness, the fatigue, the tiredness, constantly being thirsty. These are all just symptoms that your salt is too low. And one thing most of us never realize, and I didn't realize this till I actually started studying and researching it, the processed food most of us are eating is loaded full of sodium. And so even when you're eating processed food, we're putting in a lot more sodium than we think we are. When we take away the carbs and all that processed food, we're stopping eating a lot of sodium that we've been eating, and it just drops our sodium levels really low. And when we don't have the processed food with the hidden sodium that's in it, we really need to make a good effort to add a lot more sodium back into our diets when we're eating our meals. Mistake number 4 is too much dairy. And this is the reason why you hear me say in the first 30 days, don't eat dairy at all. No cheese, no milk, no yogurt, no dairy at all. After the first 30 days, you can add it back in. And there's 2 reasons for this. Reason number 1 is many of us are sensitive to dairy. When we eat dairy, we have problems. We'll get gas, we'll get bloating, we'll get diarrhea. We'll have other problems like that. So if that's you, you just need to avoid dairy and just, sorry, no more dairy for you. Or when you do eat dairy, realize you're going to have consequences and feel bad for a day, and use it carefully. And the other reason is dairy is comforting. I mean, how many of us have enjoyed the glass of milk in the morning and when we were kids, milk and cereal? We like our cheeses, sour creams, we like our yogurts, our ice creams. It's just like a comfort food for us, especially in the summertime. Well, dairy has a high sugar content with the lactose, which gives us higher energy, but it doesn't help us feel full for longer. And so what you'll find when you're on the carnivore, if you start relying too much on dairy and drinking too much milk or eating too much cheese and bringing too much dairy back in, that you'll get the energy back, but you won't stay full for a long time. So I say first 30 days, no dairy at all. And if you decide to add dairy back in after day 30, which I do, normally I will eat cheese when I'm on the carnivore diet. It doesn't bother me. I don't have any side effects or symptoms from doing it. But when you add it back in, you want to limit it. I use cheese as just a side dish. I'll have 1 or 2 ounces with the meal. We don't want to focus on lots and lots of dairy. It's just not going to be good for us in the long term. Mistake number 5 is eating carnivore type foods that have additives in them. I'm looking at you, deli meat. The problem we have is a lot of us just assume that meat is meat, and that's not the case. You go to the deli counter, you look at some of the sausages, even bacon. You got to be careful with bacon sometimes too, is that these foods have been processed. Like, next time you go to the store, look at deli meat. Just pull out a pack of deli meat and read the ingredients. You really want to pay attention because so many of these processed meats have starches, they have sugars, they have carbohydrates, they have a whole bunch of stuff in there that I can't even pronounce. And that's the kind of food that we're trying to avoid on carnivore when we're getting back to natural foods. We want to go eat beef. We don't want to go eat a deli pastrami that's been coated with 25 different chemicals and syrups and sugars. So read your labels, really pay attention for hidden starches, pay attention for sugars, pay attention for seed oils. So many of these meats that you'll find that are packaged are going to be packaged up with vegetable oil or cottonseed oil or canola oil. Though these oils are not good for you, avoid them, stay away from them. So when you're on the diet, stick to real meat from the meat counter. Avoid your processed meat. Mistake number 6 is low omega-3 intake. Yes, we want to make fat a priority. Yes, we want to eat plenty of fat. The quality of fat we eat matters too. So we really want to make sure we keep our omega-3s up. If you're eating grass-fed beef, you'll get a higher omega-3 content. Most of us, myself included, are not buying grass-fed meat just because it gets so expensive. After your first 30 days, when you start adding other food back in, you can add in wild-caught salmon. That's going to help with your omega-3 content. What I would recommend is, it's not necessary, but if you're not getting any omega-3s, you just want to make sure you got it covered. Get a really good quality omega-3 supplement like Nordic and take a couple of omega-3 pills every day. That'll help keep your omega-3 content up high. Mistake number 7 is consuming vegetable oils. On the carnivore diet, if you've watched every video I've ever made, I'm always talking about cooking in tallow, cooking in lard, or occasionally cooking in butter. You should not be using any seed oils. This was an industrial byproduct. I mean, if you go back and research seed oils, they were created to oil machinery. and somehow the government approved them for human consumption. Not sure how that happened, not sure why it happened, but it's really ridiculous that it happened. Do not use vegetable oils on this diet. The only oils you should be using to cook in or eat in are butter, tallow, lard. You can use ghee because ghee does come from butter. In the first 30 days, I also say don't even try avocado oil, don't try olive oil, just stick to an animal-based fat. Mistake number 8 is thinking that you have to always buy the highest quality meat that's out there, that you have to buy grass-fed, you have to buy organic, and that's simply not true. If you can afford grass-fed and you can afford organic, then buy all organic grass-fed beef because that's going to be your highest quality, best quality beef. However, most of us, myself included, do not need to buy grass-fed organic beef all the time because we just simply can't afford it. And there's nothing wrong with that. So don't make the mistake of thinking that if you cannot afford grass-fed organic beef, that carnivore is not for you. And that was the mindset I had the first time I heard carnivore. I said, there's no way I'm doing carnivore because I just cannot afford to spend $500 a week buying organic grass-fed beef. That's not the case. Your 80-20 ground beef or 73-27 ground beef from Walmart and steaks from Walmart are going to be just as effective for you losing weight on the carnivore diet as your $50 a pound grass-fed organic Wagyu beef. Number 9, trying to use sauces, rubs, and marinades when you're on the carnivore diet. I said this before and I'm going to say it again. On the carnivore diet, you really want to make sure your only seasoning is salt. That is the best. Stick to salt. Now, some of us, and I do this too, want some additional taste with our meat. We want some additional flavorings, and there's nothing wrong with that. You can do that occasionally, but check the ingredients of your seasonings before you use them. And I really say, I have yet to find a sauce that I would use on this diet. All the sauces have too much junk in them. Rubs and dry spices are going to be your best bet. Read the labels. Avoid anything on the ingredients list. Like if you check the ingredients and there's anything in there you can't pronounce or anything on there that's not, an herb or salt, then you don't need it. And like I look at my beef seasoning when I use it, it's sea salt and it's herbs. It's nothing else. There's no, caking agents. There's no sugar. There's nothing else in there. So read your labels carefully before you go out and try to buy a spice for this diet. Mistake number 10, eating out in a restaurant without planning it. You talk about a big mistake. Wait till you're hungry, rip into a restaurant and decide you're going to try to eat something. And it's amazing how quick carnivore will fly out of your mind when you just start ordering stuff with no plan. When you're on the carnivore diet, you have to eat out. You really want to pay attention to what restaurant you're going to go to, and you want to plan before you walk in the door and get hit with all those wonderful smells. Now, generally, if I need to eat out when I'm on carnivore, I'm going through the drive-thru. I'm going to McDonald's. I'm going to get 6 quarter-pound patties, or Wendy's, or Burger King, or anywhere else that sells the big quarter-pound patties. And I'm just going to get 4, 5, or 6 patties, depending on how hungry I am. My favorite is Five Guys. I'll go to Five Guys and get 4 hamburger patties with bacon, and I love it. However, at Five Guys, 4 hamburger patties with bacon sets you back about $30. So that is definitely not for everybody. It's not for me very often. The McDonald's by me, I can get 6 quarter-pound patties. They charge me $1.50 each. So for under $10, I eat my lunch. So before you go eat out, plan. Mistake number 12 is limiting your portions or under eating. You have to get over that old style diet advice of don't eat enough. That advice of if you're not hungry, you're not losing weight. When people said you had to be hungry to lose weight, get past that. Do not undereat on this diet. Especially the first couple, 3 weeks when you start off, you're going to need to eat more food than you think you need to eat. And what you'll find out as you go is you'll be absolutely amazed at just how much meat and eggs you can eat and never gain a pound of fat and be losing weight. If you'd have told me when I started that I'd be eating 2 to 3 pounds of meat a day with 6 to 8 eggs a day and 8 pieces of bacon a day, and I would be losing weight, I would have told you were absolutely bonkers, insane, crazy, and didn't know what you were talking about. And yet I can eat 2 to 3, I guess right now I'm eating about 2 pounds of meat a day. I'm eating 6 to 8 eggs a day. I'm eating 6 to 8 pieces of bacon a day, and the weight's coming off. Mistake number 13 is falling for convenience. And listen, this is going to be a big one. It affects all of us. This is where you start saying, hey, I'm just going to go eat out. Oh, I'm going to go buy prepackaged meat. Oh, I'm going to go do this. You're taking shortcuts a lot of us are doing it because they're trying to save time. It's easier to buy prepackaged meals. If you find a meal service like Factor and order meals, you say, hey, I don't have to worry about packing my meals anymore. They're all made for me. this is going to be wrong. This is not a good way to do things. And most people that start off this way and they start making decisions for convenience are not going to make it. The best way and the easiest way I found to survive on the carnivore diet easily without having to think about it too hard is go shopping. No, sit down on Saturday morning, plan out every meal you're going to eat for the next week. Then go to the grocery store and go shopping, buy all the food. And either Saturday night or Sunday, cook everything for the entire week, separate out into meals, put it in the fridge. And then, if you're eating 2 meals a day, that's 14 meals. 3 meals a day is 21 meals. So you'll have 21 packages in your fridge, labeled breakfast, lunch, dinner. And all you've got to do is every time it's time to eat, you open the fridge, you take out your meal, heat it back up and eat it. When it's time for work, you just grab a lunch out of the fridge, you take it to work. All your decisions are made, you know exactly what you're going to eat. Hey guys, I'd love to hear in the comments if any of these 13 mistakes are mistakes you've made and what happened and how you fixed them, how you got out of it. So let me know in the comments below. Anything else you want me to expand on or talk about, let me know in the comments below. Thank you guys for watching the video.